What is up, Fantasy Land? Joe Carlton here. Welcome to Aces Up Podcast, Episode 13. The end of August is here, and we are entering the busiest draft week of the year. Tonight, I am very happy to bring you two guests that I first met at Scott Fishbowl 13 in Boston, and have enjoyed hanging out with them each year as they bring amazing energy and positivity. We also spent time together this year at the Fantasy Football Expo, including enjoying a delicious dinner at a pretty good Mexican joint somewhere in Canton.
That is funny.
Oh, man.
It is there we decided it was time for them to finally make an appearance on Aces Up. It is my honor to bring you Mr. Nicholas Wilcox and Mr. Johnny Main. We're going to learn about their fantasy football journey as well as talk about 2025 draft strategy to get you prepared for your drafts this week. As always, grab yourself a cold beverage, get comfortable, and enjoy the show. What is up, guys? Glad I can finally get you on here, man. What'd you think of the intro? You made me laugh in the middle. I heard you guys laughing in the background.
No, it's a banger, bro. I like it. I rock with it. It's a banger, man.
Definitely.
Nice. What about the graphic of JC with the song? That's all right, right? Too.
That's totally you.
Nice.
That's totally your vibe. I love it, yo.
Nice. Awesome. How you guys doing this evening? You guys have a good day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Nothing like being back at work, you know.
Oh man, back in work, bro. Got the first day of school vibes tomorrow, man. My kids start school.
Well, that was me today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's buzzing at work too, man. So between that and just kind of recouping from, I know for me, recouping for the weekend from all the drafts I had, and looking forward to this weekend and some more drafts. Yeah, man, I'm here for all of it, man.
Nice. All right. So before we get into the fantasy background interview, I just want to go over a couple of cuts and a little bit of news that we got today. Nothing complicated, just a couple of fantasy relevant stuff. We have Najee Harris possibly active for week 1 now. So I was anticipating him eventually playing anyway. So Omarion Hampton has been somebody I have not been in on at third round. I kind of liked him earlier in draft season when he was a little bit cheaper, like 5th round. Sometimes he'd slip into the 6th round. That was when you wanted to get him.
When was that?
It was way early, like just after the draft. We seen Deontay Johnson gets cut by the Browns. Pretty much knew that was coming the whole time. I mean, correct. I asked my buddy Mike Sander, he's a Cleveland Browns fan, and I said, what do you think about Deontay there? And he said, Deontay's done. He's washed. He ain't even going to make the roster. And he was right.
Yeah.
No more Tommy Cutlets for the Giants, and they also did away with the Greg Dulcich experiment. So that's no.
Oh, you got cut too? Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's
Laviska Shenault and Malachi Corley also cut.
Yeah, gadget players.
Yeah, seen Shenault today. Seen that one.
Yeah.
And this one I really like. Marquez Valdez-Scantling cut by Seattle. And
it's about time, yo. He's such a bum.
And the reason I like that,
yes.
Yeah. is because I have a lot of Torrey Horton late round flyers, and absolutely, that's good news for him. Rick says I forgot the most important news, that Chisholm made the roster. He did. Efton Chisholm is hism.
Oh yeah, Mr. New England, man. Yeah. I think Coop, he was pretty pumped about that too, man. About Chisholm, like classic New England receiver, man.
There's so many receivers,
but that's far cry from what they had going on last year, bro. Far cry, man.
I guess so. People were in on these guys too last year, so
I'm in.
It's a different story.
I'm in on Chisholm because everybody's thinking Kyle Williams. I think it's going to take a year for Kyle Williams to develop. And so that's my Patriots. That's my Patriots opinion. Well, I think Diggs is good. So
yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
It's Diggs. It's Hunter Henry. It's a little bit of Demario Douglas. Yep.
Hunter Henry there,
yeah.
Nice. All right. So as you guys know, if you've never been on the sports, have you guys been on the sports affiliation before at all?
I have, yeah.
I have. This is my first time.
Yeah. So one thing I like to do, and it's my favorite part of is learning, your fantasy journey, your history, your background, when you started playing, all that stuff. So why don't we? Who wants to go first? You guys want to go and just.
We'll bounce back and forth. We're used to it. We'll bounce back and forth.
All right. Well, I'll start with you, Johnny. You can go first here. Why don't you give us, tell us where you live. If you have any hobbies outside of fantasy football, you want to talk about your family. Give us like a quick little 2-minute brief background on you.
Originally from Tennessee. That's where the 37185 comes from. I rep a small town called Waverly, and the local news a couple years ago with a flood that took out a lot of area down there. So I always try to represent my hometown. Really never forget where I come from. Live in Maine. Been here for now 21 years now. 22. Got 2 beautiful daughters. Married. Going on, 12 years, been together for 17, 18 years. So that's a beautiful thing. Outside of fantasy football, man, it's just work, man. It's just my actual real job. Used to like to play video games, but I don't do that too much anymore now.
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't. I don't. Yeah, like other than that right there, I'm a big WWE fan. I love watching WWE. I love watching WWE. I love good TV series, good movies for sure. And just spending time with my family, man. Those are really like my biggest hobbies, man.
John has a hobby. He loves his shirts, yo.
My novelty tees.
Yeah. The shirts,
yeah, I don't even think about it as a hobby anymore. Like novelty tees. Fitted hats, sneakers, definitely in that space for sure. I don't even think about it like that. That's kind of funny. I'm glad you called that out. But yeah, like other than that, like other than fantasy football and sports and sports betting and I'm into basketball too. But other than those things, just a pretty standard dude, man.
Nice, love it. Nick, why don't you go now, man? Tell us about yourself.
Well, hailing from Hartford, Connecticut, representing. But yeah, small town Connecticut boy. My overall job really is a little complicated, right? Middleman for basically getting everyone's groceries in store. So that's my job title, salary job, shout out. Pays the bills. But that being said, for me, hobbies wise, I'm a sports junkie in general, reality TV junkie in general. Catch me with a good Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race. You know what I'm saying? Like those are definitely some of those. Big WWE guy as well. Just critiquing the new talent now versus the old school days. Me and John definitely go back and forth on that. But yeah, in terms of just outside of that, just a nice overall cool dude, motivational guy every once in a while. I love my motivational quotes.
Love that too.
I love inspiring people. So, that's a little bit about myself.
Nice. I love that. And that's one thing I noticed right away when I first met you, man, was your positive energy. It stands out, both of you guys. And so absolutely. Jon, when did you start playing fantasy football? And how many years has it been? Tell us about how you got into your first league.
So I'm gonna give you two parts. I'm gonna give you my first free league. Shout out to a guy, used to call him Slap Nuts, Devin Elliott, back home, man, in Tennessee. Big day. He's a big wrestling fan too. Like we always we played football together and stuff, man. And then so I was like, this is actually pretty dope. And then when I moved to Maine, a lot of guys I played football with and stuff, they were like, hey, like, we're going to get together a league. And at this point in time, it was like $100. So, of course, like, I'm in college and I don't have 2 pennies to rub together. And I'm like, oh, man, like, this is it, bro. Like, this is it. And actually, I did my statistics project in college on fantasy football back then. And actually, I know this is going to shock you, Nick. I don't think I've ever told you this story. So you're getting ready to get this here for the first time, too.
Nice. I love first time shared stories. Great.
So my very first ever draft, I think I was picking 5 or 6 in a 10-team league. And this goes to show you my lack of knowledge then. I took Peyton Manning. Statistically, it made sense because he had just came off the monster year with the Indianapolis Colts. So statistically, it made sense. I struggled all year long in that league just because I took a quarterback first and I was hurting at running back because that was back in that day. It was like 2004. I mean, no, that's 2004.
What year we talking? 2004. So 20 years there.
Yeah, so 2004. Years. Yeah. So that's how I got into it. And ever since then, man, we'd all play together all the time, like all my buddies back then. And then even still now, we still stay in communication and play in fantasy leagues. So about 21, 22 years deep in the game, man, with this right here for sure.
Nice. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, man. So since 2007 was like my first increment into this. Like, so I just did a bunch of like free leagues. I was doing like that year, I was doing some fantasy baseball, football and basketball, because honestly, like high school was such a drag, like they let us be on computers and stuff like that too. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just, what is this all about? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's this fantasy stuff all about? I don't know. But yeah, that's where my journey started, just in some free like public leagues. My team didn't do well the first year. It was like 8 out of 8 or 9th. I think I barely made the playoffs, whatever, that first year, which I was like, what the hell? How did I make the playoffs? I had freaking I had Roy Williams on my roster when he was in Detroit.
Oh, Detroit Lions, baby.
That's Bryant that year. Yeah, like I had Thomas Jones like the first year with the Jets. So yeah, like it was or I think it was the last year with Chicago, whichever one. Yeah. But yeah, like I look at my roster, I was like, wow, like look how far I've come now. Literally. So since then, I've had about at least like 6 or 7 championship wins in leagues, and really have not only got the knowledge patted down, but also just like there's micro advantages to give yourself opportunities. Say once the draft is done, it's like then it becomes, obviously luck, because fantasy football is a good amount of luck. There's a great amount of skill involved as well. But also, again, micro advantages of like, okay, like I'm noting certain trends you're going to notice within your league in that league that year, where it's like, okay, so-and-so is trying to fill their RB2 spot. I got a back for them. Let's see, we'll make a deal. Like these things where it's like nowadays where a lot of more people have knowledge, you have to learn how to apply that and look to be able to, to use a survivor's term, outwit some of the people in your league. So that's where it kind of gets down to the nitty gritty. But that's my overall start. Got in the DFS in 2015. So that was like around the time where, there were still people I admired in the industry getting involved in that on a consistent basis, from Evan Silva's to, the JJ Zacharyasons with Number Fire at the time, I'm saying, Rich Rebar, Konami Code guy, like, so there was a lot of people around that time that started to, feed my knowledge for DFS. So, every year, I try to be a profitable player. And obviously now with the betting world, like that's also where I dabble into too. So
nice. What type of betting you do? You do like the player props? You do future?
yeah, player props. We'll take some sides. We'll talk about some over unders. We do that on our show every Sunday when the season starts. So me and Johnny will go over certain DFS plays for y'all. And overall just highlight, certain games we may like. We'll go game by game, go over unders, talk about our sits, stuff like that.
Nice.
So if you aren't following us on the Fantasy Football Show on YouTube,
go ahead.
that is the time to do so. DA Fantasy Football Show on YouTube and on Facebook and on Spotify.
Awesome. All right. Johnny, when did you so you guys can answer this collectively if you want, because I know you guys podcast together, but when did you guys decide to get involved in
Hey Wendy.
Get involved? I'm not paying attention to the chat. What's up,
Wendy?
What's up, Wendy? Nice. All right. So when did you guys decide to get involved in the industry as a content creator and help people win their fantasy leagues?
Like it was before Scott Fishbowl 13. I'd actually went on a cruise, and it was a great opportunity for me to kind of clear my mind and make some changes like in my own personal life. And I did. And like one of the things I told myself like on that cruise is I was like, yo, like when I get back, like I'm just gonna like put it out there and I'm gonna I'm gonna let it fly. And started just making a couple of like independent shorts. And then go to Boston and I show up for Scott Fishbowl 13. And I look at the bar and I see this guy here. And of course, he can't help himself. He comes over and starts talking. I don't think he's ever not came over and talked to anybody. So he comes over and started talking. And then I think he pretty much made fun of the beer I was drinking. I'm pretty positive that's how that started.
Sure did.
The conversation started. And we started just kind of chopping it up and talking. And, we talked for, the entire time we were there and even a little bit after. And then fast forward after the season was over with, I said, okay, like, this is it. Like, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna like put myself out there. And, it just kind of happened. He hits me up about going to the expo. I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm going, man. Like for sure. And like, we go to the expo, we hang out, man. We have a good time. We meet all the amazing people there, have some great energy, out there. And then we get back and, Nick hits me up on a Saturday and he's like, I'm getting ready to go. He's like, I'm getting ready to go on a pod. He's like, I'm going to tell everybody we have a podcast. I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's do it, man. Like, let's do it. And so like, kind of, like the rest, the rest was history, man, as far as that goes. And, it's obviously built like a really good relationship, with Nick and I. Like, I think, we're learning, we've had our ups, we've had our downs, on things, but, we're learning every single day, man. We have a great infrastructure around us and a great group of, support, from a lot of people, from, guys like Andrew and Rich and, our cookout crew for sure. So it's just really awesome, just to see like, how awesome the community is overall. And, how supportive they are as well. Like, even like tonight, like this right here, like being in this space, both of us, I know, like, are super grateful for the opportunity to come on here and chop it up with you, man. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's been since Scott Fishbowl 13.
Absolutely. I say the same thing. I just started doing this stuff in February. And I mean, I've been, on as a guest here and there, in November and December, but, February, JC handed me the show, me and Rick a show. And, it took a lot of practice, but once I got to where I wanted to be, I was like, I want to do something on my own now too at the same time. And it's a lot of reps. You got to get a lot of reps in. You got to get yourself comfortable with everything. I mean, you saw me before the show playing with my computer, trying to get everything where I want it to be, so I don't, I'm comfortable going. Don't have to worry about making mistakes and stuff, clicking the wrong button.
I got one more. I got one more.
There's a lot of work. You got one more.
I got one more. I got one more person, and I totally forgot about this guy, but like this is one of our guys. Shout out Joe Frick too, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out Frick, man.
Yeah.
Shout out Frick, man. Frick, he real, man. Shout out Frick.
Absolutely.
For real.
Yeah, Joe was awesome, man. I was like standing in the lobby, and all of a sudden I heard somebody scream Joe at the top of their lungs, and I was like, "Who the hell is that?" and And he come with, you know how he goes, like, he come like this over, and he's like, "What's up, Joe? What's going on, man?" I'm like, "Jeez, freaking frick, yeah, he's a great guy."
Totally.
So, Nick, why don't you tell us about the fantasy football show?
Oh yeah, look. So the fantasy football show, like Jon talked about the origins of it. I want to get my little background spin about like how I got into the space in general as a content creator.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I had dabbled into the space here and there. 2016 really was like, you know, I started out with Fantasy Pros as like a news correspondent. I did some freelance articles for a number of years, and then just again didn't find enough traction at the time to latch on with a company or whatever, and got kind of, you know, just bored and sick of stuff. And kind of just took an oasis, just away from the space, because it was just like I was just putting too much pressure on myself to like try to make it a full-time thing. And, you know, I just really wanted that to happen, but I need to take a step back, and I need to realize, like, you know, not only just my talents and skills, but also really to like identify what I wanted next. So again, like, it's just funny, like, you know, people come in your lives for, you know, for purposes, and, you know, sometimes you don't even know, you know, what comes about it, but Jon enters my life. And then literally it's like light bulb, hello, this is the best idea this could happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? So anyhow, the fantasy football, and that's how we kind of came together. So the fantasy football show was all about your favorite homeboys in the house breaking down fantasy football. From a X and O standpoint at times, to a pure fantasy football analysis, to overall your DFS, your season-long lineups. We're answering your questions, your start sits. We're asking and, you know, answering your trade questions. We're all in one package. You know, we're the best tag team in the space in terms of, you know, up and coming, right? Because we're not legendary yet, but we will be. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
Mixtape bear.
Just keep on tuning in. Like I said, the Fantasy Football Show, DA Fantasy Football Show on YouTube, yo. But I want to definitely shout out people that, like Jon said, like that have, you know, taken an invested interest in us, or really are just looking out from us from afar. Like you said, Coop, you know, our guy Tip and Greg here from the Sports Affiliation.
Yeah.
You and JC, Iggy, like everyone here at Sports Affiliation has been awesome to meet. You guys are always friendly. They're all like, you know, trying to ask like questions and stuff like that. But again, like, you know, the Cook Ali, like we talked about, Chris Allen, Marcus Grant, you know, just like, you know, our guy Tip here, of course. So yeah, just like, there's just, there's a ton of people that just, you know, just that overall gets us and, you know, loves our energy, and, you know, always, you know, says some, you know, nice things about us, but also tells us some things that we can also improve upon. And that's why I love this space. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love the fantasy football community, because honestly, like other communities, it's like, you know, you're always bartering, or you feel like you're always bothering somebody, whatever. I've really never gotten that vibe from anyone that's been respected in the industry. So that's really a kudos to like how, you know, great people, you know what I'm saying, like really attract great people. So
absolutely. I mean, you these are people like Ian Chopin's Ian. And one thing I noticed is we're all like similar, like all around, like not just fantasy football nerds. Like we get each other. Everybody has advice for one another in one way or one shape or another. It's almost like it's like one giant puzzle, and you know, you get us all together and it just meshes perfect, and it's a beautiful thing to see because everybody supports each other, everybody wants to help each other, like you guys said. It's amazing. All right, so how long have you guys been in? So Johnny, you said you started Scott Fishbowl 13. Nick, how long you been in Scott Fishbowl? Same time?
Same time.
Yeah, me too. All three of us, same thing. Live Boston, right? All 3 times.
And I guarantee you, I had
2 times. No, I did so well. The semifinalist that year in SFB 13. Right. I didn't get the invite back for SFB 14. So.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't.
I guarantee you I had the worst roster on this screen. I guarantee you. For Scott Fishbowl 13.
It's just funny. So the first expo we saw, we met a gentleman named Jon. I forgot how to pronounce his name, but I'm gonna butcher it. But we met him in the hotel lobby, and we were getting breakfast.
Oh, Hartzman, Hartzman, yeah,
yes. So
yeah.
we met him in the hotel. We're getting breakfast and everything, and we were just talking. I think we were talking about quarterbacks or whatever, or something like that.
Draft.
He's like, "You guys are talking fantasy football?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're talking fantasy football. Like, what's up? What you got? Like, he's like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I do some dynasty content and everything." And I'm like, "Oh yes." Come on in. It's like, I'm not interrupting. I'm like, no, what? If anything, you're doing yourself a disservice by not entering this conversation.
Right.
So, but shout out to Jon, because like he was overall like telling everybody about us that last year for sure. Like he was one of the other people that were like, oh my gosh, you gotta meet these two, these two guys are gonna kill it. This. Like I was like, yeah, I think we were like around Scott Fish, and we were talking about Scott Fish. And then I was like, you didn't get an invite? I'm making my business to make sure you're in Scott Fish next year. So yeah, that's a funny story about how I may never miss Scott Fish Bowl again.
Nice. Why don't you each tell us a couple of things about the Fantasy Football Expo this year? A couple of new experiences you might have had, or something that stuck with you.
For me, there's a couple things that really stuck out. Like I think, and I'll give my perspective. Obviously, as I think the first year I went, I went definitely as a fan. And like going as a fan and like seeing like all of these people that like and you've seen and you've heard, right? And people that like you don't know and you haven't seen and you haven't heard about that are like super important. Shout out Lord Reeves. But like going there, right? And like just kind of like just being there in that space was a really big deal. But this year, I think like after a year of creating content and like, really, Nick and I both like kind of like, all right, like, hey man, how can we make our craft better? Like I was really in it this year, man, just for the process. Like I went there this year, man, just to learn about people's processes and how they did things and how they managed things. And, a couple of people in conversations really, really stuck to me for sure. And one was Rich Rebar sitting at George's and just talking about not even fantasy football, man. It was just like a lot of life stuff, right? And like kind of how to like manage and how to navigate that stuff. And Jagger May, just hearing him, we went out to dinner with a lot of the cookout guys and just kind of getting his perspective on like, production and editing and like, what it takes to, to operate in this space and to operate in the space and make yourself valuable, and multifaceted. Like that was a really good conversation. And I took a lot away from that. Believe it or not, I know I haven't even said this, but just kind of hearing Bob Harris's story when we were at the bar, that was a really inspiring moment, for me, and kind of like made me do a lot of self-reflecting, just on me. And then, that like, those were like a lot of the conversations for me that like I really kind of like took to heart, and it was like, okay, like this is different, and like I'm approaching it different this year. I have a very and Tip, like that's where I was going to go, was Tip. I told Tip this, and I'll say it like right here in this space too, like we really had never really talked like that. And then we had a chance to talk during like the karaoke at the end of the week or whatever. And just really having a chance like to talk to him and just really kind of get to know him as far as like, hey, like, this is a space and like, this is how you got to operate, man. And like, like you can't be a perfectionist. Like it's cool to be a perfectionist, but like, like you can't let that like hold up everything and like, reach out. Like, it just like, it was a really good conversation. And like, I told him, man, like, it meant a lot, for me just to kind of hear from him. So like, those were really like, some of the highlights for me. And then obviously, man, like the Fans Classic, that was a big deal for me, man, to be able to rep for Marcus Grant. That was definitely a big deal. So yeah, like it was just more of like, okay, like, hey, like I kind of took the perspective of this year, like, hey man, like I definitely belong in the space, and hey, like I'm one of the guys that is helping contribute to the cause as far as fantasy football content goes.
Well said, man. This year was my first year, and it was hard to try to balance that part of it and taking it all in, and just enjoying the experience for the first time. So, I'm already looking forward to going next year. Just to, like you said, man, focus on that other stuff, man. And Tip is awesome. Tip has me and Tip have had a ton of conversations like that, man. He is a wealth of advice and knowledge, and an awesome friend. So. Nick, what about you, man? What about the fantasy football expo this year still sticks with you?
Yeah, I think what really sticks with me most is really, to Jon's point, it's not really getting into such the fantasy football talk. It's really like getting to like deep rooted connections with some people that you not only like and trust, but also really to know more about them as a person, know how they operate in general, and how they move as a professional. And that was just some things I also took away with as well. Like obviously last year was for us was, just the eye-opening experience of, being, fanboyish or whatever. I still took some nuggets away from that, which I applied for the upcoming year as well. But also it's like this year was like definitely different. I was talking to Greg actually, and I was like, Greg, because Greg asked me like the same thing. He was like, what was different between last year and this year? And I was like, well, last year I was like, still kind of in a fun experience. And obviously the expo is always fun. But it was like, I didn't really ask like more deeper questions. I didn't really ask about, certain processes or whatever, because I felt like, not that I knew it all or whatever. It was more about like, I was comfortable with certain things. But realizing after the year ended, it's like, there's so many things that we can, prove upon and stuff like that, and then look to apply. So I had a few things in my notes personally that I wanted answered before I came to the expo, which is also a tip for anyone that's coming to the expo. Like having some notes or questions that you either may want to, talk with, the right person about, or, just casually bring up. But for me, people really know me, I'm never afraid to talk to anybody. So that's never not me. It's more about just, again, like, getting, professional footing with people and really like having a deeper connection, having a solid connection. And, I felt like I really did that. When I talked to D-Bro, because he was one of the people that I didn't see the previous year. And I was like, man, because I'll just see like his Twitter at times. And I'm like, yo, like, what is with all these people trying to hate on you for? Like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're one of the best out here. Like, he's like, man, I'll pay attention. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't pay attention to it either, but it's still weird. Like, just like how people will just give you some negative energy or whatever. It's nuts. But we just started out having that conversation, but also just like, yeah, like just getting to know where, he's from, he a Texas boy, you know what I'm saying? Like he has some other things that, just in general that we had a conversation about. And it was just something where it's like, yeah, like I look forward to having, just more, conversation, what I'm saying, when the expo's over too. So that was that. My highlight was, I'm not going to tell you what we talked about, but it was talking with Andy Behrens, because Andy Behrens was like one of the guys when I started, doing like these free leagues, on Yahoo. He was one of the guys that we saw like every week doing content or doing this or, telling you to say this or that, the third. You got to get this guy, whatever. And it's like, so it was just very interesting, because I was like, I didn't even know he was at I think he missed the expo last year or something like that, right? I think it was like the only expo he missed or something like that the previous year. But when I got a chance to meet him, it was like, man, it was like, I don't want to say exactly how I expected, because it was, but it was like so much better and so much deeper. Like, again, we didn't even talk about really fantasy football. It was more about just like, life and, what happened in general throughout his career, and just how he's passing it forward and all these other things. And I'm like, this is like so great. Like, it's just so on brand for Andy, because like, I've heard great things about you, so you didn't disappoint. So unfortunately, he went around teasing me around. He was like, be careful talking to this Nick guy. And I'm like, why would you say that? You have over 100,000 followers on social media. Don't say that.
Love it.
It's like, oh my gosh. He's like, he's like, be careful. You might end up saying something to him you may not want to say. Like, oh my God, Andy, stop it. But it was all fun and games. But it's something that, again, I was like, like you said, when you first start something, it's like, that was one of the people like they're on your like so-called bucket list that you want to meet, you want to have some conversation with, stuff like that. And I've always appreciated Andy for his work, and it was just great to meet him in person and to have that in-depth conversation about just life in general. So yeah, like that was like my highlight of the trip.
Actually, I got one thing too, actually, because I didn't hit my highlight like that. You actually
highlight.
Yeah, this actually made me think about it. But man, Scott Fish, yo, shout out Scott Fish, man.
Yes, he did. He did you a solid too.
He did me a solid, man. Yeah, he did me a solid. And then like even like the year before that, man, like I seen him everywhere. Like he was almost like last year I played the role of Nick, and now this year Nick was me with seeing Scott everywhere. But I got into Scott Fishbowl 14 because me and my girls, we did a video or whatever, just like what was it? It was Dirty Dancing or whatever. So like we did a little, Dirty Dancing thing outside. I picked up one of them, and then we have like this little handshake. And so my girls, like, they know how big of a deal Scott Fishbowl is, and like they're 9 and 11, and so they know how big of a deal it is. And so he actually, like, I was like, hey man, like, can you hook this up? And he records a video of him saying like, what's up to my girls. And so I send it to him, by name. And my daughters are like, oh my God. Like Scott Fish, he actually like knows that name. Oh my gosh. So like, and they're like telling their little friends, and their friends are like, okay.
Who's this?
Like okay. But like, you know what I mean? It's just people like of that pedigree and that ilk, man, of just like taking the time out to, to say what's up, man, or to, come on a pod or to do whatever, man. It means the world, man. So I appreciate you jogging my memory on that, Nick.
Nice, awesome. Scott Fish is awesome, dude. That's great. That's a great story, John. All right, so favorite teams. Who are you rooting for these days?
I'm gonna let Nick go first on this one. Right,
you want Nick?
I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
I'm sure
you
are.
Go ahead, Nick.
I'll give you a hint, Charlie. You got to guess.
I got to guess?
Yeah.
Someone
in the AFC.
It's in the AFC? The Raiders. The Raiders? No. The Jets.
Thank you.
they suck. Pot gave it away.
I had to say it. Like,
oh man.
Oh
man.
Oh man. So how'd you become a Jets fan?
It was something where it was a combination of two players, literally. When I first turned on football, Chad Morton brought back a 98-yard kick return touchdown. And I thought that was like the most coolest thing ever. Because special teams, when you're doing kick return touchdowns or punt return touchdowns, it's always the thing. And then Chad Morton, I was like, let me see more of this Chad Morton guy. And then I saw the next drive, and Curtis Martin was there. Former Patriot, by the way.
Oh, I was about to say.
Yeah, Curtis Martin was that was a guy I wanted to model my. Curtis Martin was a guy I wanted to model like my football, career after, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when I started playing running back, it was him and Boobie Miles for some reason.
Boobie!
for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying? Those two guys, right?
Didn't they have was it Lavernius Coles or something back then too?
Yeah.
Lavernius Coles, from Florida State, yeah.
Yep. Santana Moss later on, you know what I'm saying? Wayne Corbett, you know what I'm saying? I could, Chad Pennington, obviously, so those are my dudes growing up a little bit. So, obviously then we talk about Mark Sanchez, then we talk about Rex Ryan, but in terms of, just like, that was like some of the guys I love watching. But again, Curtis Martin was like, man, he was something to watch on the tape. So that's where, again, I would I'll be like, yo, I'm Curtis Martin in the backfield. Yeah, we about to get busy. And then it got to a higher height with Blue Miles. Like, I'm spin. But yeah, that's how I became a Jets fan.
That was when Bill Parcells said,
green's my favorite color.
Guys with me, and I'm out. Yeah, green is my favorite color as well. Wearing the green monster shirt.
Okay, gotcha. All right,
gotcha.
Love green. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the Jets this year, 2025?
I don't want to be
playoff hopes. Any playoff hopes?
I'm really just even keel right now with the Jets. I'm really just not trying to get my I'm not trying to be too high, and I'm not trying to be too low. Really just try to come in with a fair analysis for them, because there are some things that make me like rethink, like this is a new regime and stuff like that. So I just want to give it a new opportunity. I loved Aaron Glenn. So he played for us obviously back in the day. So yeah, I mean, look, like I want to just give it a fair chance. Like I have some faith that they'll bring in some of the stuff that worked effectively in Detroit. I do think we're set up for a decent season, so we'll just see what happens. The biggest thing will be obviously is Justin Fields. Like there will be, I really think that he was the best quarterback we could have gotten on the free agency market. And you didn't have to pay like extreme top dollar for him. You know what I'm saying? You paid him a fair contract to where it's like, okay, we gave you a fair amount of money. We didn't give you like a, longest contract, most money in all of history type of contract. But we gave you a fair deal to be like, hey, like, this is your team, and we're going to surround you with the weapons that, you feel good about. So I think the potential three-headed monster with Hall, Allen, Isaiah Davis, you brought in Mason Taylor. You got Garrett Wilson, your college buddy. You know what I'm saying? So there are some things that you are starting to build nicely offensively. And then we already had a solid defense. So that's just where, again, we're getting Jermaine Johnson back, from his torn Achilles. So we're hoping he can still be impactful. Quentin Williams had a down year last year by metrics, but I think in terms of being, interior line, we had our linebackers sped up, like Sherwood's become, in his own bag after, again, because no Jermaine Johnson last year. So I think when it comes to both sides of the ball, I think the Jets can, I don't want to say shock people, but I do think they can play really competitive football. And I do think the cultural environment is so much more important because, look, let's just face it. The Jets franchise for the last, 16 years, more. Like, since we went back to the back-to-back AFC championship games, we haven't been the same. So that being said, I think the resetting culture, the new GM, new head coach, and wiping the slate clean, and I'm not blaming Aaron Rodgers, but it was like he brought the toxicity, the negative media headlines, which will always be there in New York, but it always gets heightened when you have a Brett Favre, when you have Aaron Rodgers, whatever, that comes into town. So I think Justin Fields, he's going to feel the heat, if we get on a losing streak, but I think it becomes still like, hey, this is still this is almost brand new in a way, and we can always figure out different ways to, steer the ship forward. So I'm definitely more optimistic than I was heading into last year because, again, I didn't mess with Aaron Rodgers. I didn't understand why we brought him in. When you brought him in, he got hurt the first year, then we had to wait a whole nother year just for him to, mope and cry and wanting to get it done his way and all this other stuff.
He killed Breece Hall. He killed Breece Hall last year, too.
I wouldn't say he killed Breece Hall because Breece Hall, metric-wise, wasn't looking like Breece Hall. So
right.
I think in general, I think Breece Hall can have a nice, bounce back this year. Based on where he goes and some of these ADPs, I think people are, starting to, they're either going to be on one side of the fence with Hall or the other. You know what I'm saying? So they think this one side of the fence is, oh, well, Breece Hall is not going to catch him, enough, the balls from Justin Fields because he's a running quarterback and this, that, and the third. And then he's all, timeshare community. Braylon Allen's coming for his job. That's one camp. The other camp is that you think Breece Hall is going out of value, which I think he is because we started out getting Breece Hall late third round. Now he's trickling down to the late fourth round, 4 or 5 turn potentially right now towards the end of the summer. We're talking about this on August 26th. So
I got him in the 5th round last week. Yeah.
So I mean, I just think the hate is going a bit too far for a guy that's really talented. And yeah, he might, share some touches with Braylon Allen, whatever, but both these guys can still exist in a fantasy land. I don't think it's not exactly one or the other. I just think that, again, a 4 or 5 turn for Breece Hall, you're getting him as your RB2, easily can be a guy that we talk about next year, drafted inside the top 24.
I like that take. He's going to be involved in the pass game. That is I think it's inevitable based on the lack of a wide receiver too there, a true wide receiver too. And Mason Taylor is probably going to be involved as the season rolls on too, but he is still a rookie, so it could take time to develop there. And like you said, if Hall's going to be utilized in the pass catching role, then there's going to be plenty of volume for both running backs. I'm actually in on both. I think they're both of value. And anytime I take Brees, I'm definitely trying to take Braylon Allen as well later on.
Yeah, you can pair up the situation.
Yeah.
I think Braylon Allen still goes, if you're going to get standalone value for him, he's still in that territory of these, if something happens to the starter territory or / standalone value, your Charbonnets, your Trey Bensons, your Ray Davises, you know what I'm saying? Like these, they're still, he still fits in that mold. We were doing it last year with these guys. So again, if an injury happens or something, Braylon Allen gets more than potentially the goal line situation, like these things, in fantasy, obviously, it can get weird sometimes. So I think it's, again, still going out of value, especially depending on the home league room you're in.
All right, man, let's get to Jon. He's been silent for a little bit over there. Yeah, no, I'm gonna let him. I'll let him go because we're kind of married at the hip this season, both of us. Obviously he's a Jets fan, so I'm a Steelers fan, die hard. So we just swapped quarterbacks essentially. So really, I think it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. I've always been a Justin Fields fan. There's a part of me that wishes they would have kept him, but I understand why with the personnel that they have, especially after the DK Metcalf trade like that. That made a lot of sense. But how I got to be a Steeler fan, Cordell Stewart, man. That guy, man, that's my GOAT right there, man. That's my GOAT for the Steelers. Seen him playing quarterback, playing wide receiver, playing running back, punting the ball, and I'm in 6th grade, and I'm like, yo, like that's the guy I want to be like right there. Like I want to be like that guy. I want to play every position, on the field. And then just to see the culture over the course of, me growing up, just to see them so tough defensively and, always sacking the quarterback. And, you see guys like Carnell Lake, from back in the day, like that's one for me. Greg Lloyd, obviously. That's another name for me. Obviously, you got Jerome Bettis and Plaxico Burress and Hines Ward. Like those guys, for sure, like really stick with me. That's why I'm a Steelers fan is Cordell Stewart. And then as far as like what I think about like this year for the team, I think we all know what it's going to be. You're talking about Fields and some of the others, or Aaron Rodgers, with the Jets. One thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's one show in town, and that's Mike Tomlin. And there ain't no ifs, ands, and buts and bees about it. And I think that's one. Bees, huh? Yeah, there ain't no. Yeah, baby. Yeah, that's a whole Southern one right there for you.
I know.
Yeah, and so like I think Aaron Rodgers knows that, and I think there's a level of respect that both of them have for each other when you hear them talk about each other, and like why, and Aaron Rodgers talks about that, it was Mike Tomlin just calling and just being, like what's going on, kind of the same things like we've talked about like in the fantasy space, like not talking football, just talking about what's up. So like I'm actually pretty confident in the group. Like it's kind of hard not to be confident. I mean, you think about it, of all the playoff teams over the last handful of years, I think without a doubt, I think the Steelers have had the worst quarterback room in the league. Even Ben's last year. Ben was a shell of himself the last year that he was there. And I think Aaron Rodgers still has something to prove. Because granted, he's going to probably, he's going to go in the Hall of Fame and everybody, the MVPs and stuff. But he's only won one Super Bowl. He's only won one Super Bowl. So, and then you turn it over and you look at this team defensively. And they're stacked, man. Like it's hard not to look at this roster and go, all right, defensively, they can win football games just defensively alone. I know they had some problems last year stopping the run, but like they've, they definitely addressed that through the draft with Harmon and Yannick. Like they did that, and Cam is back now as well. They still have some other guys on the defensive line that, I think are good rotational pieces. The linebacking core, like they've shown that up with Peyton Wilson and obviously PQ. outside linebackers, like, it's hard to argue with the outside linebacker group that they have. Probably one of the best outside linebacker pair in the group in Highsmith, who is probably like the most underrated player in the league, just in my opinion.
Johnny?
Yo. Okay. Okay. You were calling. All right.
We're good now. We're good. Yeah.
Okay. And I think
you were cooking too. You were cooking.
No, I'm still in my bag.
All right.
But Jalen Ramsey, I think like getting Jalen Ramsey, I love Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick was probably my favorite player on the team. But getting Jalen Ramsey, man, I think that's an attitude adjustment for that defense, and to see how he's going to be used, kind of in the Charles Woodson mold, the way that the Packers were using him, I'm pretty excited about that. Big play Slay's a little bit older for sure, but I think like he brings a lot of like youth and experience. And then Deshaun Elliott, man, was so underrated last year for those guys, man. So underrated on the defensive side of the ball. So it's obviously there's a lot to be excited about. And then you look offensively. One of the things I don't think people are talking about, or that they just don't show enough love to, the Pittsburgh Steelers have revamped their offensive line, and they are a lot younger, and they're athletic, and they're big, and they're fast now. And I know everybody's going to say Arthur Smith and he took out Bijan Robinson. I will die on this hill and say that Arthur Smith as the head coach is different than Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. And I strongly feel like, and Mike Tomlin is going to run the football. He's ran the football with guys like Rashard Mendenhall, Willie Parker, Le'Veon Bell. Like, you go on and on and on and on and on. And if you're playing running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you are getting over James Conner, you're getting over 250 plus carries as long as you're on the field. So they're going to run the ball. And I think Aaron Rodgers just has to manage. And now you got DK Metcalf now in the fold. And like DK Metcalf, I'm not saying he's Devontae Adams, but it looks like he's going to play the role of Devontae Adams, and he's going to be the guy that's going to get a ton of targets in this offense. And I think schematically, when you look at what they can do, and I know the jokes are out there about tight ends, but like the one thing that these tight ends, having all of them, what it can do is it can force linebackers, into coverage, or it can force mismatches with safeties and corners with big, fast tight ends. And that tight end room is obviously probably the best tight end room in the NFL. So I'm excited, man. And I think, again, like the playoffs is kind of what, Steeler fans have come accustomed to. So I expect nothing less this season for that team, man.
So two questions for you from a fantasy football perspective. I want to know, Jonnu Smith, is he being undervalued right now in drafts? I've seen him go as late as round 15 since he got traded to Pittsburgh.
I think round 15, like at that point, like I'll take the flyer on him for sure. I'll take the flyer on him because like somebody's got to be the number 2 wide receiver, the number 2 pass catcher, I should say, in that offense. And maybe it is him, and maybe it's Patty, maybe it's Patty Freiermuth, right? Like I think that's the question. It's like it's hard to kind of navigate on which one of those guys is the guy from a fantasy perspective. Tight end too, like you can take a stab on either one of those guys and still come out smelling like roses. And if you don't, then like it is what it is. But I don't know if there's enough. I don't know if there's enough there for me to hang my hat on to confidently say, like that's a place I would want to be going, right? Like in round 15 or round 16. I think there's definitely some other options that are out there that are independent pass catchers that aren't sharing time at the same position. Cause we all know, like, if you're in a tight end premium league, that's a little bit of a different ball game, right? Like, I think like you can definitely take a stab on it, but like, it's really hard for me to hang my hat on and say, yeah, like he's being undervalued because we don't know which guy it's going to be at that position.
All right. And the running back room, Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson. Do you have a lean towards each one? Are they both going to be effective? Why don't you give us some thoughts on that?
I think this is going to be like a very similar situation, just like a lot of the other rookie running backs out there. I think it's going to be very similar to the situation you guys have in New England. I think it's going to be very similar to the situation that's in Denver. I think there's 250 plus carries that left with Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren, I'm pretty sure, has not exceeded over 125 or 135 touches the entire time he's been a Pittsburgh Steeler. There's no way that Jaylen Warren is going to be able to withstand that type of workload. And Kenny Gainwell, like we all know what this is, man. Like we seen this the year Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. People were drafting Kenny Gainwell, right? This is Mike Tomlin making a statement saying, hey, Rook, you need to earn your keep around here. And there's a couple of veterans ahead of you. And if you want the position and you want the run, you're going to have to act like a vet. You're going to have to carry it like a vet. And you're going to have to play like a vet. So for me, I think probably by the time, we get to, mid to late October, I think you start to see Caleb Johnson's touches creep up to the 15, 18 per game mark. And again, like this offensive line, like Broderick Jones, like that's another guy, man. Like if he plays good football, and Troy Fontenot, if he can stay healthy, right? And that's a big if, right? And that's a lot of fantasy just in general is health. If this offensive line can stay together and they can stay healthy, I really think you're going to see a huge uptick in this run game. And a lot of the efficiency metrics for the Steelers. So Caleb Johnson is the guy long-term. Short-term, Jaylen Warren is a guy that you can get, round 8, round 9 as your running back 2 as a flex just to kind of hold you over if you do take a stab on some of these other rookie running backs. So you can get away with playing both of those guys or drafting both of those guys. But Caleb Johnson is my long-term play for sure. And he's actually been like devaluing in drafts. Actually, he's a guy that like – Going into the year, I was drafting a lot of him over RJ Harvey. And now I'm kind of like, all right, like let me get as much RJ Harvey as I can because of the Caleb Johnson situation. But yeah.
Nice. So you're not concerned about the pass protection rookie Aaron Rodgers narrative at all?
I'm not concerned about it because like I said, I'm from Tennessee, so I always keep an eye on the Titans, right? And to see what Arthur Smith was able to do, and granted he had Derrick Henry, so I will put an asterisk beside that. But to see what he was able to do in that offense, and it's I don't want to say similar, but A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, right? Aaron Rodgers at 41, whatever it is. Like I feel like he can manage an offense, and there are still throws that he can make, and the ball is going to come out quick for sure. And I think like they're in a good space. Like they're not going to be a top 10 offense. Like that's just not who they are. That's not how they operate. That's not the way this roster is set up. But they're an offense that's going to be able to move the ball, and they're going to be able to take their shots when they want to. And talking to Greg Coventry, and then I'll shut up after this right here. But he was talking about just the way that teams are going to have to play DK Metcalf this year versus the way that they played him in Seattle because of the run game. And if they have to bring the safety down one-on-one with DK Metcalf, that's scary hours out there on the outside.
Nice. That was an awesome breakdown of the Steelers, man. You cooked that entire time, and you actually convinced me because I've been out here saying every now and then I've been dropping this might be the first losing season under Mike Tomlin possibility this year. But you definitely I think you've opened my eye a little bit, and I feel a little bit better about the Steelers as a team, as a whole, I should say. So
can't believe I convinced a Patriots fan. I'm cooking, baby.
That's right. That's right. People ask me all the time. They're like, "Who do you think is the Patriots' rival?"
Oh.
And it's not an AFC East team. I always say it's the Steelers.
Oh man,
it's got to be the Steelers because we have the most Super Bowls and we're in the same.
Yeah, and you guys literally like the best Steeler teams of this era ran into Tom Brady. Like that's exactly like the thing that makes me the happiest is that the last time Tom Brady walked on the football field in Pittsburgh, we sent him packing. The only downside was he was playing for the Bucs. So
I like that. Nice. So, boys, we're an hour in. We're going to jump into some draft discussion since, this week is probably the most busiest week for drafts. So I want to start with, the spots in the draft, the beginning, the middle, the end. Looking at the 2025 landscape, is there any specific spot that you like better than the other? Does it really matter where you guys pick? Give us some thoughts on spots. Nick, we'll start with you here.
I'll say that I really prefer, if I don't get a top 4 pick, I'd rather just take the end. If we're talking 12 team, that's what I'm talking about. Like the middle, it's like the 6, 7, 8. It's like I don't mind the 8. Just 6 or 7 is really tough because even at 6, you may have to make a tough decision very early on how you want to build. And then you're kind of like, there's not much wiggle room. You know what I'm saying? There's no wiggle room in the middle, like 6, 7. Like there just isn't. You know what I'm saying? So when I say 6, it's like literally, we're talking about Chase, Bijan, you know what I'm saying? Barkley, Lamb, and then Jefferson, right? For the most part, that's pretty much the top 5 consensus right now. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Gibbs. I'll take Jefferson instead of Gibbs, obviously. So that's where, again, like, if Gibbs falls, you sure, you know what I'm saying? But it's like also it becomes just tough 6, 7 after, because it's like the next go around, the snake draft comes around, and then, maybe AJ Brown, which is fine. Lab McConkey, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So I always tell people you can never, ruin your draft within the first 2 rounds. It always comes, like later on when it comes to hindsight, right? But I prefer the beginning or the end. The middle, not really.
Yeah, I like that. And the 6 or 7 is tough. You're the first person to make a pick after that elite tier is gone, and then you're also the last person. All those people that come behind you are taking their second guy before you get your second guy. So, and
the beauty about being at the beginning, the beauty about being again is like you get an elite guy that you want in the first 4, and then you're going to be circling around towards the 2-3 turn. So you're still depending on your draft, draft mates, stuff like that, how it's going to be drafting. You're still gonna be able to get a solid, second player you really love. And then you start the 3rd round. So you just get, you can get, Lamar, you can get a, another running back, like, I'm saying, if you want to reach for a rookie, if you want to, like, I'm saying, there's definitely different ways you can do it. And on the back end, it's like, okay, back end, we're talking about, this is like probably we talked to a good amount of analysts this year. It's like, we're predicting that the back end of the draft is really nice because you get 2 studs in the first 16. And it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're already getting 2 elite guys for the most part. Or you have your picking and choosing of who you think is that. And then, then the back end, the 3rd or the 4th, depending on the rest of your draft goes, you can still get a Hurts, you can get a Daniels. Like, there's still other guys you can still grab. You can grab a Henderson, a Hampton. There's just other ways. That's why I like the ends, because it's like you're still able to, I could potentially predict who I'm going to get, and then I can also make my next move.
Nice. What about you, Johnny? What are your observations about the beginning, the middle, the back end, and 2025 drafts?
Well, last year I couldn't stop drafting in the first couple of spots. This year I can't do any better than either being dead last or drafting in the middle. So, like, over the weekend, like, I disagree with Nick. I had an opportunity to draft at 5, and I had an opportunity to draft at 7 in my home leagues. And what I came back with at 5 and 7, like, I absolutely loved. And again,
you drafted with some morons.
right.
Did I get all I heard?
Less intelligent people in home moves,
right. Nick's got them dogs out there.
You tell people where you got Rashee Rice. That was the pick 7 team, I think. Right?
Yeah, but like, I'm just gonna go through like the construction of things, man, and like, because I think like you're talking about like being at the end, like, of course, like you want the highest pick you can possibly have. Like, I don't think that's rocket science, but like you're talking about like going to the end of the draft. But like if you're wanting to pick at 12, then yeah, like being at 7 or being from that 5 to 7 range versus being at 12, now you could really end up finding yourself having to make like a lot of tough decisions to the point like you were making about being at 5 and 7, because there's guys that like I don't love like at the back end of a draft. Like if you find yourself, and again, just being devil's advocate here, like if every wide receiver is gone, because like right now it looks like we all know the big 3 up front, but ASR, Malik is gone. Nico's gone at 112, and this is just what we have trending right now. So are you going to take Puka Nacua at wide receiver at the end of the first round? You're gonna go BTJ. You're gonna go Drake London. Like I'm probably gonna go BTJ or Drake London, like for sure. And I don't have a problem pulling the trigger on it. But like,
no problem.
I
have no problem taking.
It's uncomfortable.
BTJ.
it's an uncomfortable space though. It's an uncomfortable space that you find yourself in, like being there. Like, and I know like you'll take HN like every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. So I think for you, I think that's for you. That's why you feel the way that you do, is because like you are getting your guy like at that space. But if you're in a 5 to 7 range, then like it changes a little bit, and it's about the guys that like I like I've been on record and I'll continue to be on record saying Nico Collins is a guy that like I don't have a problem taking. Like in the 5, well, I wouldn't take him 5, but in the 7 space I would take him. But 5, 6, if you give me Justin Jefferson at 6, man, I'm giddy like a schoolgirl, right? And then from that point, like if you're looking at wide receivers, then you got your AJ Browns and you got your JSNs. And now when you look at that wide receiver room, it looks a hell of a lot different than what it looks on the back end. And then being at the beginning, one of the things that could happen, and it happened a little bit last year with in some drafts, is, you know, you take like a Jamar Chase, right? Like you take a Jamar Chase, and then all of a sudden in the second round, like, what if T. Higgins is the next best option? Like Chase Brown, like that would be a miracle if he got back to you, but that's great. But now like your first 2 picks are on one team, and that happened last year with Bijan and Drake London. Like it's the same thing. So I think like there's reasons why, right? Like you like being where you prefer to be at. And I think for you, like you're comfortable being there because like, you know, like, all right, well, I'm going to get my guy. I'm going to get HN there all day. But I just think like for me, it's that. And then also too, in the 3rd round, like Nick kind of hit on it, the 4th round, I would say 3rd, 4th, if you go wide receiver, like again, like a JSN or like a Ladd McConkey, that's a good place to be. But then in the 4th round, like you got to make a critical decision, right? Like you got to make a critical decision if you're there in the middle. And that's either, hey, do I go ahead and take the quarterback now? Like, or do I address tight end like with a guy like maybe like George Kittle, like they're in the 4th round, like, and now like you kind of have like your 1-ups, and now you find yourself into that, you know, tier 2 of running backs, almost 0 RB, like maybe like the Chuba Hubbards of the world, the Alvin Kamara's, James Conner, those type of guys. So like I actually am starting to prefer that build better because it seems like you can actually fill out your roster a little bit better without a lot of holes and a lot of reaches. So for me, like right now, like if you ask me, I would feel a little bit more comfortable kind of operating in that like 6 to 8 range right now, which I never thought I would say because I actually hate drafting there. But like so far, no complaints, man.
Nice. So I'm going to throw out a couple of observations I've noticed. If you're drafting at the beginning of the draft, I've noticed that a lot of these teams have been going with a running back start, locking up 2 premium top tier running backs.
I'll go super robust. You know what I'm saying? I'll take 4 running backs. I don't care.
From the beginning. In the back end, it's been quite the opposite. You get you have an opportunity to land 2 of the top wide receivers that are still available. And another thing I noticed about the back end is you kind of have that you kind of like in where the elite quarterbacks start to go. So you kind of put, you know, you're in position to take an elite quarterback if you choose to, because that's where that pocket of the draft is when it comes back in the 3rd round, and sometimes they drop, sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do drop, and then when it comes around the turn in the 4th round, you have the choice to end the elite tier tight ends, like you brought up earlier, Johnny. You have a shot to grab Kittle, so you have a shot to hit on your ones and start with 2 wide receivers. It's almost like it's tailor made for 0 RB drafting. Yes, but on the contrary, though, it's also where you can push up some of the running backs that are going in round 4. If you do want to grab a running back there's still plenty to go around. There's a Kamara, James Cook, Breece Hall, guys like that, right? You know, right there in that range that can, you know, you could. So I think overall the back end gives you more flexibility and balance. I think you have to lean, if you're picking from the beginning end, you have to kind of lean into your build. Once you start with what you do, you really got to go all in on that build and try to not pivot too much after that, and just make sure that you hit your roster construction the way it's supposed to be all the way through. So those are some of the observations I've noticed. So why don't we talk about, since I just dabbled on it a little bit, the elite quarterbacks and just quarterback strategy in drafts in general. Do you guys, Nick, do you prefer taking the elite one? Like when do you think is the right time? How would you describe the right time to snatch up an elite quarterback? And also give us some details on, why you choose to push off and wait on quarterback sometimes. And which one?
When it comes to the elite guys, I just find myself not getting enough of Josh Allen for whatever reason. It's either I want to grab a Lamar or I'll wait for Hurts or Daniels. I find myself just not getting Josh Allen for whatever reason. So those are core four, elite QBs right now in the space. If you're not getting one of those, it's easily you can wait. You don't have to force yourself in getting a Baker Mayfield or sometimes even Bo Nix goes in this territory, like the middle, like that middle of the sixth-ish, quarterback that gets taken, whatever. Mahomes fits that category. I don't mind Mahomes. I just don't find myself getting there like with him. Because again, QB is the deepest I think I've ever seen it coming into this year, where there's so many interesting QBs you could take depending on how your build wants to go anyway. So even if you want to go, you take an elite guy, okay, you're really done. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to really worry about grabbing a backup unless you have a deep bench. But then for quarterback, if you don't have it, you can still get the rest of your roster all ponied up. And then you could take John's guy, Caleb Williams. You could take a Drake May. You can take, even if you want to go deeper, a Bryce Young, a Trevor Lawrence. And this is like that. Those are in a way more super flexes, like, because those guys don't really even get drafted sometimes in some of these single QB leagues. So yeah, like Jordan Love is another player. Like again, like there's these quarterbacks that don't even go drafted that we can still take. So the strategy behind that is simple. If you don't get one of those four guys, like I said, you're going to end up getting a guy that you really like later after you've already built up your roster. So again, it's like grab the guy you're most feeling comfortable with, but if it doesn't fall for you right away in the draft, don't even force it. You know what I'm saying? Just let it happen. Do your research and let it happen to the guy that you may want later on, because you have to obviously read the room, but it's like, okay, once those four guys go off the board, okay, good. That's in a way that's good. So now I can just focus on the rest of my roster and filling it up how I want to fill it up. And then I grab a quarterback when I'm always like, if I'm not first, I'll be one of the last guys to get a QB. I honestly think, do you even have to draft a QB this year? Because you can really just grab a whole roster, and then for whatever is on the waiver wire, you never know. You can just grab a guy from there in a way. So that's how I kind of see it right now when it comes to the QB landscape, because it's pretty easy.
Johnny, your thoughts on?
Yeah, I'm just gonna make my plug for Caleb Williams. That's been my guy. He's been my guy all year long, and I'm gonna continue to make the plug for him.
It's his ride or die.
But he's heard, like Nick's heard it all off season long. Right now, it's going at 10.2 for ADP. So kind of like to Nick's point, like you can wait on it. Everybody talks about like what he didn't do last year. How about let's talk about the fact that there was one point in time where he had 353 pass attempts without an interception. Let's talk about the fact that he had the fifth most yards in Bears history. Let's talk about the fact that on quick passes, he was 77% if he got the ball out of his hands in 2.5 seconds. And I think like you've seen that in the preseason already. Granted, it's the preseason for sure. But I think you've seen that. And I think you've seen what Ben Johnson wants to do and how he wants to operate with this offense. Then to boot, one of the other things for me that I like about Caleb Williams is the fact that last year he also pulled the ball down and ran a little bit. So like he gives you a little bit in the run game as well. So I think like his athleticism is underrated. So there's that. And then obviously you have all the weapons. Like you talk about weapons, like the Chicago Bears have weapons galore. And I've said this and I'll say it again. If Ben Johnson can fix Jared Goff, I can only imagine what he can do with a number 1 overall pick or former number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. So you can wait there. And I'll tell you, I'm going to give you 2 more hot takes on quarterbacks. My other hot take is either J.J. McCarthy or Cam Ward. One of those guys, for me, is going to pop into lower tier QB1 area. We see it happen every single year with like a first year starter that like everybody's like, Well, JJ McCarthy, like, bro, again, you talk about another guy that does nothing but fix quarterbacks. Kevin O'Connell is a guy that like I buy everything that he's selling on the offensive side of the ball. So I wouldn't be shocked there. And I think obviously Drake May would probably fall into the same category as well. But like he's not a first year starter, but JJ is, and so is Cam. So I wouldn't be shocked to see either one of those guys. And JJ, I think we know his athleticism is underrated. Like we've seen it we've seen it a lot in Michigan. And I actually had more questions about him as a passer going into the league than I did as him being an actual athlete playing quarterback. So I think like we're going to see a little bit of that. When you look at the upper echelon of quarterbacks, man, I've been saying it all year long, man. Again, another guy. There's one guy for me up top at QB. Jalen Hurts. That's the guy for me this year. That's the guy. That's my guy like up top that I want. He's my 101 at QB, and maybe I'll end up being dead wrong, but like whatever, man, I'll stand on it. Talked about AJ Brown a few weeks ago, talked about it a little bit last night with Rich. And one of the things that was just wild was just the amount of passes they did not have to attempt in the fourth quarter. And so now, like, obviously you talk about schedule, you talk about health, you talk about Saquon Barkley. Last year, the formula for the Philadelphia Eagles was, okay, how do we keep Jalen Hurts upright? Because the previous seasons, he was banged up, dinged up going into the playoff run. So now this year, now I feel like it's going to be a little bit more about how do we preserve Saquon Barkley? How do we not give him 470 carries, right? How do we not do that? And I think Jalen Hurts is a guy that's going to be able to capitalize on it. Plus, we still got the tush push, baby. So in those leagues where passing touchdowns are only worth 4 points, capitalize on it with Jalen Hurts because and Rich Rebar gave us this stat last night. I'm pretty sure it was him and Derrick Henry had the most rushing touchdowns. They had the most rushing touchdowns in the last like couple of years. It was some kind of wild stat. And Jalen Hurts was that guy. So when I look at quarterback, that's what I see. That's what I think of is that right there. And it's deep, man. So if you don't get one of those first 4 or 5 guys, you got guys like him, you got guys like Brock Purdy, you got another wild card is Michael Penix, man, like in that offense. So just a ton of options at quarterback depending on how you want to get creative.
Awesome. I like that. That's a good take. So it sounds like both of you guys pretty much leaning to waiting, but I'm going to give my take on quarterback strategy this year.
Sure.
So I'm with you guys. For the most part, I'm waiting, but if there is an elite quarterback that I'm going to pick each year, I usually, if there's a group of like 4 this year, there's what, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar, right? That's
Yep.
And then if there's a 6-point passing touchdown league, you can kind of throw, an honorable mention into Burrow at 5. But he's kind of the one who starts the next tier. But every year, I go by which one is the cheapest in ADP. If I'm taking an elite quarterback, that is the one that I'll usually target. This year, that happens to be your guy, Johnny, Jalen Hurts, and I'm with you. They have to be. There's going to be more passing volume this year. I definitely see that in the playing cards this year. They ran, like you said, they didn't have to run. They have a much tougher schedule this year. They're the Super Bowl champs. They got a target on their back. They're going to get everybody's team is going to be everybody they play is gunning for them. And the Dallas Cowboys offense improved. The New York Giants offense improved. Every team in that division, the Redskins added Devo. Every team in that division's offense got better talent-wise. So I just think that, the passing volume is going to be there for him to hit. So I'm with you on Hurts. If I'm waiting, I like your call on Caleb Williams. I'll occasionally go for a Bo Nix when he falls. Sometimes he floats.
Right.
Like I won't take him in the 7th, 8th round, but if he floats to the 9th, then I'm interested in a Bo Nix because now you get those 8 8 other roster picks on your main roster kind of filled out by then. So it just makes sense. You're not really giving up like flex value to take a quarterback there. 9th round is pretty safe. And I will say this about elite quarterbacks: if it's a 10-team league, if you're in a 10-team league draft,
where you better get elite.
And especially if it's a competitive league, I kind of lean to. I believe the elite quarterbacks give you the edge, because in that, and when it's a 10-team league with good players, with all good fantasy football team managers, no lineup is going to have a hole. So that means the elite quarterback is where you're getting the edge from week in and week out, because you're getting those extra few points per game every week, and then obviously the ceiling as well. So I will say that about elite quarterbacks. You're in a 10-team league, try to grab one of the top 4 for sure.
Definitely.
And that's it. That's it for quarterback talk. We're going to move on to 2 players that you guys can't stop drafting. Who wants to go first?
What's the qualification?
No qualification. Just guys that you're in on. Guys that you've been pounding the table for all draft season.
Okay.
For whatever reason, it can be because of their ABP, or it can be just because you're in on them as a player.
Yeah, this receiver is going as a wide receiver 34 right now. Consensus ADP. Talking about Deebo Samuel. We're talking about a range of receivers where you may not be, if you're like me, who kind of tries to get running back builds early on. Like, you want to get a Deebo Samuel that has the potential to finish inside that top 5 before. Deebo did it a few years ago, obviously, when he was with the Niners, and how they schemed him up. The place he landed was just too perfect. Cliff Kingsbury loves to use the screen game. They needed someone like that in the screen game. Deebo Samuel, he could still be used as a miscellaneous weapon per se. When it comes to end arounds, when it comes to potential a few carries here and there. Look, the Washington situation, as from a running back perspective, is now even more of a mess than it was a few weeks ago. In terms of roles, like everyone's talking about Krosky Merritt, and then there's still Eckler, and stuff like that. So to get a guy like Deebo, we're talking about probably like mid to late 7th round. It's just too cheap. Love grabbing him every time I get a chance to, especially as a wide receiver 3. The other guy that I can't really stop, stop drafting in a way, is Jameson Williams. And, I just think in that tier of receivers, there's a ton of receivers that I like to grab anyway. But Jamo's just my favorite. I think that where this is technically his 4th year per se, but this is his 3rd year breakout. I do think that Detroit is going to find ways to uplift where he was even what he was doing last year, and become more of a complete receiver. Because how they used him the last couple of years has been, the deep threat and, some of the gadgety type of stuff. I do think that he won't necessarily take away volume away from a Mon-Ra, in a way, but they're going to deploy him still just betterly from a route perspective. They're still going to use those nice crossers with him. They'll still have some nice routes to run with JMO in terms of the intermediates route of the field, some deep in cuts, some curl routes on the outside. Like, they're still going to be using JMO as a deeper threat, but he's still going to be more of that complete receiver, I feel. And Dan Campbell is always a great person for coach speak. Usually when he says something, that's kind of like that percolates for me a little bit when he says certain things about a certain player. So I'm going on with that when it comes to JMO. I've talked about him all off season. Why stop now? But those are 2 guys from receivers I really love. There's one more, and it's clearly obvious. I'm really not concerned about H-Chan's, calf injury whatsoever. Give me him beginning of the 1-2 turn. Give me him at the 2-3 turn. Because I just think that, if for some reason that calf injury is more to be let on, make sure you grab Ollie Gordon later. Because in terms of just having that Miami backfield, like that, we know is definitely electric. Even like HN, I don't even want him to have these other weird touches where it's like, like the first and second down bruiser role. That's not HN. Let Ollie Gordon take a few of those carries. Because I think when it was him and Raheem Mostert that first year, we saw how dynamic, both of those guys were when it came to using their speed, getting to the edge, and having great success. They put up 70-something points against the Denver Broncos. Everyone remembers that game. But I will say that with HN, like, I have no concerns at this moment in time because of the information we're given. But I will be, having some shares of Ollie Gordon because I do think he was one of those running backs that, just like Krosky Merritt, people didn't really see the ability right away. But people are starting to see it in, little pockets. So those are my guys.
All right, Johnny, who you give me two guys you got pounding the table for this year.
First guy I already mentioned is Caleb Williams. You can wait at quarterback, and Caleb Williams is so polarizing just off of his personality that like a lot of people I made a little short about this. Is like it's almost like he's almost like the Drake of fantasy football. Nobody wants to see the guy be successful at all, man. You know what I mean? But like you can see like the talent is all there. So I won't spend a lot of time on him. So like there's him, but I will give you two players. The one guy is I've been pounding the table for him all off season long. That's Calvin Ridley for the Tennessee Titans. I haven't had a chance to draft him as much as I've wanted to this off season. But the Titans last year, of course, it's making me angry. The Titans last year had the worst quarterback room in the entire league. Now, you have the number one pick in Cam Ward there. Then the air yards that were there for Calvin Ridley last year, that was I think he was number 1 or number 2 in the league. I think it was number 2 behind Alec Pierce in that space for the Colts. So I just think like he's the only show in town. He's going to get a lot of targets. I think the offensive line is better. I just think it's a better situation than he's had. We've seen what he can do, like when Matt Ryan was the quarterback and he was playing with the Atlanta Falcons, and even Trevor Lawrence, like his best year there. He's not a big touchdown guy, but I know we all know touchdowns can be kind of fluky. But again, he still managed to crack 1,000 yards last year, and I just think for where he's going, like around like round 5, he's somebody that could, if you gave me a dark horse for somebody who could be a not number 1 overall wide receiver, but a wide receiver 1, Calvin Ridley would be a guy. The second player for me is a guy that I had no intention on being this adamant about, but again, over the weekend, and it's not just my hometown drafts, Nick. 6 drafts this weekend, and one guy that like I continuously kept getting, and he kept falling to me, and I'm like, am I missing something? That's JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I think right now, I think it's starting to hit me like a ton of bricks. Like he might be the best value at wide receiver inside of the first 4 rounds. Currently going at 3.9 for ADP. Last year he lined up in the slot 75% of the time. Nobody be afraid of Cooper Kupp. Like ain't nothing to be afraid of with him. Like Cooper Kupp ain't going there to line up in the slot at all. And then his air yards, they went up from 6.2 to 9.3 last year. And I know Sam Darnold's the quarterback, but Sam Darnold and Geno Smith, hey man, like I'm not going to say they're the same guy, but there ain't a lot about them that's very different, if you ask me, in my opinion. And I think basically as well, like with the run game that is going to be there with Kubiak, like going to be a lot of play action opportunities. Just from what I was seeing in the preseason, it looked like they were trying to get him out on the edge quite a bit. And if that's the case, like I feel good about that. And then I have one more quick stat as well to support this with JSN. JSN is one of only 4 players in the NFL with 75 receptions, 900 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 2024. The only other players to do that, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. So I think JSN is in a really good space, and I think he's one of the best values that is out there right now inside of the first 4 rounds. So don't be a fool. Draft JSN.
Nice. I like it. Your boy Tip Major. His one of his bold calls is JSN leading the league in targets and going over 1,500 yards.
I think that's
going into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no intentions, right? But like the way, like the rosters, like the way they start to construct themselves, right? Especially like in a PPR format, right? Like there's a lot of heavy hitters up top, and like again, like there's that 5, 6, 7 space, right? Like if you go CD Lamb, JSN, Justin Jefferson, JSN, bro, that is a fire start to start your draft there, picking in the 5 or 6 spot.
Last week I started the draft from the 10 spot, went Drake London, Malik Neighbors, JSN. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I mean, it's a third reversal draft, so that that's how it made it possible with JSN in the third round. But that was a good start. So say that. All right, Nick, why don't you give us 2 players you're out on this year?
2 players I'm out on.
Could be the player or the ADP. Player or because of the ADP. Give us 2 guys you're not drafting.
Man, I'm just trying to think of like who like really. Jerry Jeudy's one of them. I think that Jerry Jeudy would be one of those guys where it'd be like he starts out pretty hot, but then it's like if Cleveland like loses games and they just don't look like typical Cleveland, right? They may shuffle around those quarterbacks, and then that's where Jerry Jeudy may not be like so hot. So he's someone I haven't gotten barely any shares of in terms of where I see fit with him. I think the other guy that I'm just like fading in general is Aaron Jones. Like we think that's right. That's right. That's right. I knew you guys saw him. That's why I said it first.
Oh, you ain't nothing, man. You ain't nothing. You 2 for 2 in this segment, man. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
I love you, God. But we both been not on Aaron Jones at all. I think Aaron Jones is still a talented running back. There's just obviously like it's a 1A, 1B situation. And I think that Jordan Mason, obviously, John's been talking about him all off season. Jordan Mason's someone that, I've been prioritizing in more best ball, if anything else. But obviously he goes late when it comes to some of these managed leagues. So I'm willing to take, Jordan Mason over Aaron Jones pretty easily. Just because Aaron Jones, like he may or may not have some goal line touches within him. And he's always tending to get hurt. So I'm just not, going on that, the beaten path per se for Aaron Jones. So give me Jordan Mason all day. So you want a bonus?
Oh, all right. So I'll pile on the Aaron Jones piece because I definitely had some pieces here. So
go ahead,
I'll pile on a little bit more here. Like with Aaron Jones, hadn't hit double digits touchdowns since 2021. That's even with having a 63% snap count last season. Vikings been a top 10 offense and still no double digit touchdowns. They were 19th in rushing yards last year. So obviously this makes all the sense in the world why they bought in Jordan Mason for sure and what that is. Zay Flowers is the other guy for me that I'm out on it at 6.9. And I say that just because with the exception of like a couple of like boom games, I don't know what you're going to get. And you're going to get like a lot of like 4 for 40s, 6 for 60s. And I know I'm like, kind of, staggering the numbers like that. But I think Mark Andrews is a guy that like, we talked about, Nick and I, we've been talking about is, he was in the car crash last year. Isaiah likely comes out booming, right? There was a lot of things last year that just did not go in his favor to start the season. And so he's a guy that like, I don't want him on my roster. I'm not going to go out of my way to get him, right? I think there becomes a point in time, like with everybody, right? Like if he falls to like the 8th round, all right, cool. Like, we're talking business then. But just for me, like he's not a guy that's going to get like a lot of red zone touches or a lot of red zone targets. Don't have it right now, but I'd be curious to know. He's probably like one of the bottom league leaders in red zone targets if I had to be a betting man, because when they get down there, it's going to be some kind of a fun game you're going to have to deal with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, or Mark Andrews. Like, what do you want to do? And now, not to mention that you got DeAndre Hopkins in the fold, and I know obviously he's older, right? But like he still is who he is, and his hands would cover the screen, literally. So he's just a guy that like at that ADP, I think there's other guys that like I would be interested in for sure. If I'm in the 6'9", like, yeah, if we're in that space, like George Pickens is going right now at 6'7", give me George Pickens every day of the week and twice on Sunday over Zay Flowers. Obviously, my guy Calvin Ridley's going ahead of him. And another guy that, Nick was talking about is Dolphins, so I'll kind of throw a jab at him, man, since he took my Aaron Jones. Jalen Waddle is a guy that I would take a million times over Zay Flowers in that space. So I just think, Steph Diggs, Ricky Pearsall, there's just a ton of players that I would much rather have later on or even in that space over Zay Flowers. So, like I'm not even going to call it a tier in my mind because like I don't think there's a tier with Zay Flowers, George Pickens, Waddle.
Well, he has a solid floor. That's the only thing. Only thing I'll say about Zay Flowers is that entering a third-year receiver, still in an offense for the Ravens that, I think is still he could have some way with. It's just the problem was touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where, again, he's a safer floor guy. He's not – we haven't seen, like, the ceiling for Zay Flowers. Like, were we projecting him to have, like, a 1,300-yard receiver in this run-first offense? Yeah, that's where it kind of, goes to the wayside. I myself haven't been on Zay Flowers. It's more about just like, again, like sometimes there's certain players that get overlooked. Zay Flowers is still talented. So I won't like completely rule him out from being drafted. But like John's point, it's like there's so many receivers that we like better than where he's going ADP wise.
Right. Well, and the other thing like I would ask you too would be, again, like with all the injuries that happened last year there, like he had a 25.4% target share. And that was the 11th highest in the league. And that was the production that he was able to put up. So that is wide receiver 1 type target share. And that was the result that we got. So we talk about inefficiency. He is the poster child for inefficiency. And like, if we are saying Mark Andrews is going to be healthy again this year, and then they also just paid Rashad Bateman during the offseason, like, maybe like last year, maybe he was a safe floor play, but I don't feel like it's safe as a floor. I feel like it's those, what are they called? Those click-clack floors, the floors that you put in that they click. They ain't the hardwood floors. They just click, man. Oh, God, I can't even think about it off the top of my head. But that's what I think about when I think about his floor. So, that's
he has been consistent. I will agree with that. And if you do take him, it's got to be a good value, and it's got to be in like a 0 RB build where you get him as your flex. Like I wouldn't rely on him as one of my top wide receivers for sure. I like the take this year. I mean, he's a best ball player. He does have those,
that's a good call. There you go.
He does have those boom weeks. He's had you have to live with those 4 for 40s, like you said. All right, so let's move on to I want to talk about Trevion Henderson because he was in the 7th round, then he was in the 6th round, then he was in the 5th round, and now he's up into the 3rd round. So are you guys in on him in the 3rd round? Are you paying 3rd?
What's his ADP now? What's his ADP now?
He's going
in the 3rd round now?
The back end of the 3rd round, yeah. Sometimes early 4th, but it depends on who you draft him with. But yeah, he's up into the 3rd round now.
So I like a couple of trends, like I seen it, like, and he probably is like I would probably say like in high stakes leagues, like I would imagine that's probably what you're referencing as far as him going in the 3rd round, which that makes sense. Like being aggressive. Hometown leagues, like you're looking at probably like the 4th or 5th round. I don't know if I could do 3rd round. Like I don't know if I could do 3rd round. Because I asked myself this question, like just kind of taking a look at things, and maybe this is another guy who's being boosted up in high stakes league. Chase Brown, he's one of our guys. Chase Brown is one of our guys, and like I would absolutely take Chase Brown over him for sure. And I think there was a pocket of time. And I think this is like and I'm going to just go on a quick side rant and I'll come back to it. But I think this is kind of like the dope thing about fantasy football is like, there are these pockets of times and there's these waves where there's like players that like, you're like, okay, like now's the time to get them. And like Omarion Hampton, like he was like down, like, in the 5th-ish, 6th-ish too. And then like, and then, Independence Day happens, and no pun intended, his ADP firework. It boom. You know what I mean? So like you have that, right? And then obviously Travion Henderson and like all the clips that have been out with the Patriots, and then what he does in preseason, like there's that right there. I think like just overall, like it like in a vacuum, this is a freaking great running back draft class. And I think this running back draft class is going to be just, I don't want to say just like, but it's going to be like the wide receiver class was last year. Like we're going to look back and like next year, we're going to have a lot of guys in the top 2, top 3 rounds operating in that space. But to go back to your original question about Travion Henderson, I just think that's an aggressive price tag for somebody who's still going to be in a split backfield. And I'm going to, talk about your Pats for a little bit. Is the one thing with Josh McDaniels, man, is like, even like contrary to what we heard last night with Rich, like,
yeah,
Josh McDaniels has been a pain in my neck for the last 20 years on and off. And the one thing I know about Josh McDaniels and the one thing I know about Mike Vrabel as well, every week the scheme is going to change. And there's going to be weeks where they're going to feature the tight ends because that's where the advantage is. There's going to be weeks where they feature the outside receivers because that's where the advantage is. There's going to be weeks where they move Steph Diggs inside, and that's where the advantage is going to be. There are going to be weeks where Drake May runs. There's going to be weeks where it's going to be both running backs used in the passing game or just in the running game. If you go back and you think about some of the creativity that happened,
dance offenses,
guaranteed, man. So I just don't know if there's enough validity outside of Ramondre Stevenson injury to say like, all right, this is a 3rd round pick. And then also too, and maybe, I don't know if I'm wrong on this, just shut me down, but Antonio Gibson, right? Like is he still on the roster as well for the Pats?
Yeah.
Man, you never know with Josh McDaniels. That's the one thing about him, man, is you never know. So if I can get him in the 4th or 5th, I'm all in, man. But the 3rd round, that's a little bit rich for my blood.
Yeah, I agree, man. That was an excellent Josh McDaniels New England Patriots take for sure.
I hate everything I had to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one thing. Like, it's so true. Like, it's hard to read the Patriots offense week to week, for sure.
I think in the right situation, I would take Henderson late 3rd. Reason being is because we just talked about the tail end of that draft, right? Most times people will start receiver, right? Then if I'm going to go late 3rd and grab Henderson, then I'll just grab another running back. I think when it comes to Henderson, like, he's definitely that talented. There's definitely a few outs where that you can't completely hit. But I feel that's more baked into early on in the year. I think for later on in the year, it's just gonna be one of those situations where it's like, man, like, Henderson's doing this, Henderson's doing that, like similar to like the Bucky Irving situation last year. Like, nobody was grabbing Bucky Irving because we took more of a timeshare. It's in the 3rd. Like, I understand the draft cost in terms of like drafting him. I think in the right build, though, if I'm drafting Henderson my RB1, no, I wouldn't take him in the 3rd round. I think it makes more sense if, from a strategic standpoint, if you're going to take him as your RB2 in that range, grab another RB that you like, and then take it from there, because you're banking on Henderson to, literally be your, the guy that you drafted later on but for him to flourish later on in the year. That's where I try to use in my mindset of like, all right, the reason why this guy's going up in ADP is because why? You know what I'm saying? Because look, it's like RJ, we could wait another round and get RJ Harvey, right? Same thing, just a round later. It's like Harvey is going to be one of those guys that still could be J.K. Dobbins and him splitting for the first 6-8 weeks. People get frustrated, you know what I'm saying? And they want to, I don't think he's going to break out for some people if they have whatever. And that's where you look to trade for him. Because you believe in the backside of their overall play later on in the year. So that's just where sometimes in your mind you have to play this game of like, okay, like, I know this guy's going here at the ADP. Why? And if there's another guy we get a little bit later for that same situation, that's great. I think with Henderson being steamed up, it's justified because he overall can do it all from the running back position. He could block, he could run, he could catch passes. So he's a trifecta. So that's just where I think that's why Henderson keeps on steaming up boards. But like I said, in the right build, I would still take Henderson late 3rd. If I'm taking him as like just casually, if I as my RB1, no. So it just makes sense on the ability you have to do. But we obviously love Henderson. He is getting steamed up for a good purpose. But it's like, okay, like in the right room, I won't take him that early. I'll wait and see if I can grab, again, similar situation will be RJ Harvey, because it's going to be a similar situation. I don't think Stevenson is going to go away completely, right? So that's another thing people have to look out for. Stevenson won't go away. First 6 weeks, it's still going to be somewhat those two guys splitting. It's not like Henderson's going to run away with it, like, unless we're reading the tea leaves wrong. So that's just where, again, it's getting steamed up. If you got Henderson earlier on, like late fifth, whatever, early sixth, congratulations. But that's just in some best balls, like in some best ball leagues, stuff like that. But yeah, he's getting steamed up a little too high.
Nice. All right, so we'll move on. As expected, Terry McLaurin got his 3-year extension worth $96 million. Give us your thoughts on the Washington offense for fantasy football, including touching on the JCM hype and the RB room in general. Johnny,
these are your boys, Nick.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Nick. You could take this one then.
No. Yeah, I mean, touching on it, I mean, I knew McLaurin was going to get paid. It was all about winning.
Yeah.
It was just the problem with these situations. It's not. I've been indifferent about McLaurin. He's not someone I've been, like targeting, but he's not. If he falls to a certain point, when he was falling to a certain point, like the early fifth round, it's like, yeah, I'll take him there. But yeah, I mean, look, the problem with this situation, I hate to say it, but it really reminds me of the Brandon Ayuk situation, where it was like Brandon Ayuk was like basically begging for his contract all summer long. The Niners were just playing games constantly, and then they finally extended him, which I was a little surprised about. I thought they were going to trade him.
They probably should have.
This situation, and obviously, Ayuk goes out there. He's not in the best shape. He goes out and gets a season-ending injury. I'm just weary about these situations in general. Like, I think McLaurin's very talented. I'm sure he got himself in decent shape. So I'm not expecting like an injury or anything. I am expecting like a dip in like out the gates when it comes to like starting out your leagues, like like trying to get out in front of your league mates. Like McLaurin could be one of those guys that just gets out there a little bit more slower until like maybe like week 4 or whatever, where he starts to get his whole thing going. So that's just where I'm worried about when it comes to that. That's why I've been on Debo in a way, because I'm like, well, Debo's been there all camp, getting all the reps. They're utilizing him in different ways, stuff like that. We all know Terry McLaurin's going to come back. So when he does come back, it's even more. He'll know the playbook, this and the third. He'll know where to be. They'll know the overall, design scheme they want to use for Debo. So, and again, them not believing in Brian Robinson definitely changes some things a little bit too, because people might be just looking at, again, the cross-key merit stuff and be like, oh, yeah, he's going to be the guy, this and the third. We could be looking at 4 different running backs in Washington taking pieces of the pie early on. Say, could Krosky Merritt be the guy that later on is that league winner or whatever? Yeah, it's possible because things change, I'm saying, especially towards the tail end of the year. But I do think, like I said, with Debo, I talked about earlier, I do think that him being utilized in order for this Kingsbury offense to, they brought him in to be that extra wrinkle that they didn't have last year, because they were still doing all these play designs and the schemes for terms of screens and in terms of short intermediate targets, whatnot, whatever. They just now have a better weapon to use it in Debo. So that's where, again, like, I think McLaurin getting paid is great for him. But it's also like he wasn't someone I was like aggressively going after. And the Krosky Barrett stuff, talk about being steamed up. This guy wasn't even heard of a couple weeks ago for some people. Now all of a sudden he's going like 8th round, whatever, 9th round sometimes. It's just, I'm not saying that I wouldn't take Krosky Barrett. It's just, I just know I missed the boat on him, so I'm not going to try to chase, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. I like that, because especially you play in these contests where guys have them in the 16th, 17th round. Now he's all the way up in the. I think he's in like the round 8 to round 11 range, depending on who you drafted with.
It's just the opportunity cost becomes it's just too lopsided now. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you missed the boat, and it is what it is. Like, you know, you grab somebody else potentially later on in that area if you can, but if not, like, who's to say those teams even that, you know, that you grab Crosby in the 8th or 9th round are going to even make it, you know what I'm saying, to some of the later where the money is at later in the year. So
I'm going to say this, and this is all I'm going to say about the entire Commanders team. They're all overpriced right now. Like last year, you got every single one of them at a discount and every single one of them at a value, and now it is not. Like, I'm cool. I'm cool with them, man. Like last year, you were able to get Terry McLaurin later on.
Oh, yeah,
you're still able to get him like later on. And Jaden Daniels, obviously, like we know what the price tag is on him, and those are the only two guys I would be interested in. So I think they're a little bit overpriced for my blood, man.
Even Debo, huh?
Yeah.
Overpriced?
What are you guys doing awake? They're still awake. my kids are all there. You want to read off the next question? This one right here. Go ahead. Say this. Say that right there. Read that line right there.
Tight end you are targeting if you miss out on Bowers, McBride / Kittle.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. Yes.
Look at you, Joe.
Yes.
Training over there. That's some great training. That's some good parenting right there.
Well, the guy for me, I don't think it's yeah. I mean, like at that point, like I'm probably, I guess Mark Andrews would be a guy I would be looking at. Like I'd be okay with him. I don't really have like a target for tight end, like outside of that. Like I just kind of wait. And Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft, those would probably be my two guys that I would be interested in. Mark Andrews, because I still, like we just talked about, he's still the number one pass catcher for the Baltimore Ravens, like for sure. And no, he's not going to go like nuclear with touchdowns again. So maybe it's one of those things where it's more of a yardage perspective, like with him. But he's a guy that I think like, you know, you can just hang out and wait and get like a crazy great value. And I'm gonna pull my Nick Wilcox out right here. And I'm gonna go Tyler Warren because I know that. As the drafts are happening this weekend, I'm like, dang. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you might be on to something, man. Like you might be on to something.
So he's my most owned tight end, I think.
That's a good call, man. I missed the boat on him, man. I missed the boat. I did. I'm standing there like, dang, like I done missed out. I missed out on him, man. So maybe I can get some shares up this week.
Nice. How about, go ahead, Nick? What about you? You got a tight end that you like outside the top 3?
Yeah, Tyler Warren. He's definitely my guy.
He used to be in the 10th round. Now he's up in the 8th and sometimes in the 7th.
Which is I think still fine. I think the other tight end, because I knew he was going to say Tyler Warren. The other tight end that I've been getting, you know, here and there of is Evan Ingram. But it's been like a rotational guys. Like after the 3 are gone, because I really haven't gotten honestly any of the 3 enough in some of these at times. I've gotten Hawkinson when he's like goes really late. I've gotten David Njoku at times. I've gotten some Tucker Kraft. The one guy probably later after those guys is Jake Ferguson for me, because he's someone that
we take it
when it comes to the target tree. We talked about him. We talked about the target tree for Dallas, and we talk about the Dallas situation where it's like Dallas's situation in general. We're projecting the defense to not be that great in terms for where, you know, Dak Prescott's gonna be throwing the football. So literally you have CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, and then Ferguson. So that's just where, again, Ferguson can grab all those short and intermediate targets along with Lamb, but also Ferguson is a red zone weapon as well. So it's these things that where Ferguson comes to mind, he's going after that, you know, he's going after like, you know, Loveland and stuff like that, where again, Chicago is going to be a decent offense, but everyone can't win in Chicago, right? Like everyone can't win. Like everyone's, you know, not everyone, because, you know, people are still doubting Caleb Williams, But Caleb Williams, we're talking about DeAndre Swift, we're talking about DJ Moore, we're talking about Roma Dunze, who's had a lot of steam for sure in terms of talking about the name. People are talking about Luther.
Guy, man.
Yeah, no. People talk about Luther Burden, who's going obviously.
OZ too, man. OZ, he's had a good training camp.
Zacchaeus, we're talking about.
Yeah, he had a good training camp, man.
I know he did, but I'm just saying we're talking about Zacchaeus too.
Played all right. Was it Atlanta? Was it Tampa Bay last year? I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was.
I thought it was Atlanta. I thought it was.
It was Atlanta.
So yeah, I mean, look, there's so many names in Chicago that everybody can't pay off their overall fantasy price tag. Not everyone's gonna pay off. So that's where again I haven't gotten Loveland. I know he was drafted, you know what I'm saying, high, top 10 pick, whatever, stuff like that. But again, there's just so many pieces in Chicago that everybody can't pay off their price tag. So yeah, again, Ferguson goes after him. He goes in that range where it's that's the last guy in the tier in a way, him and Dalton Kincaid, and Pitts, that range is where it's I can mix those guys in. Even Dallas Goedert, you can make a case for. But I think that after the three, basically my long-winded way of saying, after the top three, if you don't get any of those, just piece together your tight end room later. You know what I'm saying? Look to grab. I love Tyler Warren. That's the guy I want to grab. If I can't get Tyler Warren, give me Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, or give me Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts. Give me a guy that Ferguson, I feel, has a nice solid floor week to week, and then grab a guy that you think can have some ceiling. Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, whatever, after them, and be okay with piecing that together, because most times that's what, at least 8 out of your 12 league mates are doing if they don't grab 9, because we're talking about the big three. So from that point on, I mean, tight end is always a position that's so vicarious as well. So just be careful in a way, because after you miss out on those three, it's just don't try to grab Hawkinson the 5th round or you know what I'm saying, Mark Andrews early 6th. Just you don't have to chase the position after those three guys are gone. It's just similar to quarterback. You don't have to chase the position.
Absolutely. I agree. You miss out on those three, you're going to wait. And I usually wait until around the 8th. If Mark Andrews has fallen to the 8th round in some drafts, if he's there in round 8, I like it. That's when if he's not there, then you just keep pushing it off. You keep pushing it off. And two guys I like pretty deep, and I love how you explained how Nick explained. You want to grab a guy that's steady, got a floor, somebody that you can plug in, and then somebody that you can stash, and they may have a path to being the number 2 target on their team. High ceiling guys.
Kyle Pitts, right? Everybody's written them
Kyle
off, right?
Pitts. Another one I like. A real late pairing that I like is Hunter Henry.
I knew you guys. I knew you're gonna plug in a New England guy sooner or later.
Hunter Henry as you start the season off, and then Chigo Caldwell.
I
think
that's my other guy. Yeah.
That wide receiver. Now I like Ayamana. But I do think it's going to take him some of the he's going to be one that gets involved mid to later in the season. I think Chig has a pretty good opportunity to get up into it to become the second in the target share in that team. At least for a little bit, some portions of the season. And they all got he got a quarterback upgrade. Cam Ward is the real deal, I think.
Yes,
so,
he's like the number 1 quarterback that was selected. And it feels like there's the quietest talk about a number 1 overall pick for QBs in ever. Maybe even when Andrew Luck was selected, people were talking about him, but it was still I felt he deserved a lot more hype back then. Yes. But hey, what you gonna do? I think Cam Ward is definitely the real deal, though.
All right, so I got one more question for you guys. Decided I'm going to start throwing this on the show sheet every single show, just so I can get some feedback from everybody in the space.
Sure.
Any advice you guys can give me about continuing to get better at podcasting, and you could even tell me if there's something you guys think that I need to work on better. Let me know. I'm here for it, man. We're looking to learn and get better. So,
I'll go first. I think, man, like the biggest thing, like I've learned, like just over the last like year or so, like especially like just like having like guests on and stuff is, uh, like obviously, man, like we have like our questions and stuff, like we have our preparation and like we do, and like Nick will attest, like I'm a preparation freak. I'm a preparation freak. But I think too, like I'm just finding, man, like like it's okay to kind of to deviate from that, like especially like if the conversation is going good. It's okay to deviate from that, a little bit, and like sometimes like that's how some of the best questions are born. And I spend a lot of time too, man, like just trying to find ways to be creative, just like looking through like looking through shorts and looking through things like that right there, as far as like creative ways that like we can add like different segments and different things. So like I'd say like do that, man, and don't be afraid of it. And just let it flow, man. I think tonight was awesome. I think like we had a good time. It was definitely it was loose, for sure. And I enjoyed my time here, man. So I would just say like that right there. Like it's okay to if the conversation is going good and it pops something up to kind of have you ask another question or bring up another subject or topic, like that's great. And then just spend some time like looking at like other creative podcasts. That's one of the things like I learned at the expo is like they were like, hey, like who are your favorite podcasters, who are your favorite analysts, right? Like it's okay to like take pieces of their game, and it's also cool like just to take like fun and creative things that like you see online and bring them to your pod. So that's my take.
All right, Nick, how about you? What do you got?
I would say, yeah. I mean, like, I think we had a great time tonight.
Definitely, yeah, it was a great show. Definitely a killer show.
Definitely keeping like just the flow going of like like you said, we have a plan and stuff like that, like these things. But sometimes you don't have to always stick to it. You can always make even some adjustments within show. I think that's something where we like to keep it like that. Like we like to keep it fun, loose. You know what I'm saying? You talk about your stuff, you talk about your stats and data and stuff like that. But I would say, yeah, like just continue doing this type of work because we just found that, sometimes when people go on other shows, they're like, "Man, this is so stiff. This is so tight. I gotta stick to this. I gotta stick to that." It's like, it's like talk whatever you want. You're the guest. Like, it's like just that's just what that is. So it's like you're the guest. Like, you talk about what you want to talk about. Shoot. But yeah, like I would say, yeah, like look, I think we've been doing this for a bit, but I think that's just where again, consistency is obviously the thing. And obviously just looking to broaden your knowledge. I'm sure you already have a good amount already, but there's always something where it's like, all right, maybe I look over that's one thing I could tell you. Looking over your shows and being like, oh, okay, I could have said this or potentially put this in, whatever. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's just more about being aware of like, oh, okay, there was a spot I could have said this or a spot I could have said that or whatever. But honestly, like just looking over your overall footage of yourself and being like, okay, I could have said this or I could have said that in a way. But just your own feedback, look at your own self.
Self-reflection. Nice. All right. I like that. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
This has been a great show. We're gonna get ready to close out. Just want to take the time to thank everybody that was in the live chat and anybody that's tuning in now, or if you're tuning in tomorrow while you're working or you're on the beach or whatever. Appreciate you all.
Okay,
keep listening, man. We got gonna have good. Gonna bring on some good guests every single week. So that's my goal. Have good guests, have a good show, good football conversation. Hit the like button. If you're listening on X, go over to YouTube. Take 2 seconds to hit the like button. If you're not subscribed already to the Sports Affiliation, subscribe. It costs nothing. You just have to hit a button for us, and it helps us out a lot. Man, we're trying to get to 1,000. We're at 750. I think we've gone up almost 300 subscribers since the beginning of the year. So we're growing.
Sweet.
And JC and Iggy, man, I can't be any more thankful for them, but giving me the opportunity to do this, and I'm looking forward to doing it, throughout the 2025 season. So thank you for everybody that tunes in. Nick, Johnny, it's been a great show. We're going to get out of here. So have a good night. Thank you,
Peace.
guys.